can't find it. It doesn't seem to be on any of these stations.
Keep looking.
Oh, you're going too slow. Let me take the wheel.
It's too fast. How could you even tell what's on?
I can tell.
Stop, there it is. Back.
Too late, I'm in the 40s. Gotta go around the horn. It's faster.
Wait, that's it.
I look for the giant chicken!
Hello. Please come in. There's some fresh cookies in the cookie jar. There's a fresh pitcher of Kool-Aid on the counter. Have a seat. We'll put a movie on for you. This is Movies at Grandma's House, where we look at the movies from the past to see if they're still good today. And I'm your host, Isaac. Use your head. And we are back in the world of living toys for the sequel. Who's joining with me today?
But I don't want to use my head. This is Seth.
It is fantastic to see you. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. This is another fantastic movie to consider. We are in a great series of Pixar movies. This is what we call peak Pixar. We have so many to cover, but even though this is still towards the beginning, we're just hitting some really big hitters. So I'm so pumped for this episode. This is I think a lot of people have nostalgia with, so I'm excited to get into it. Before we do, just want to be sure everybody has their proper warning. As always, if you have not seen this movie, please stop what you're doing. It is on Disney Plus for free. I'm sure you own it in some shape or form. If it's not VHS or DVD, please go watch and come on back. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a fun time with a little movie called Toy Story 2. This movie was released back on November 24th, 1999. Whew. Coming up on 25 years. Hard to believe. I say that every time about these movies, but I still can't believe it. It's coming up on 25. The budget for this movie, it was $90 million. However, the box office, it hit $511.4 million. I'd say that was a big hit, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of these Pixar movies. So I'm interested to hear, Seth, what are your first memories with this movie?
I remember seeing this in the theater. Just being so impressed by every aspect of it. It's a classic movie. The animation's really just going along with the Pixar brilliance, I should say.
Oh, it's right there. We'll get into it, but I have same memory. I recall seeing this in the theater. I think everybody just had a blast with this movie. It was a huge sequel. Toy Story, like we talked about, was a huge movie. This was the follow-up. Has such high expectations, and I just recall having such a fun time with it. I got to see it in the theaters, and like a lot of people that I've talked to, what I've heard from, saw it numerous times on VHS at family, friend's house. It seemed like this was on for like 5 years afterwards straight in some form, but that's what I recall with this movie, just that time period. Within 5 years, I think I saw it, and I enjoyed it. It was a fun time. But with that in mind, when we go back to revisit these movies, we have to have the right expectations. So what kind of expectations did you have going back on rewatch?
Really just to sit back and enjoy the journey. And I say that because I can't come in this with a fresh perspective.
Me neither. No, I can't either. I just was like, I'm just going to enjoy this. And like I mentioned, I watch these movies with my kids, so I get so much fun watching their reactions. So I wanted to have expectations of, see what kind of reactions they're going to have with it and just enjoy it, like you said. So let's, as we always do, jump right into this. Let's take the VHS out of the cover. Let's put it in the VCR and press play.
We find Woody is about to go to a cowboy camp with Andy. Just before they can leave, Andy accidentally rips Woody's arm. He is placed on the shelf and finds Wheezy there. Wheezy is taken off the shelf for a garage sale. Woody rescues Wheezy, but is found by the owner of Al's toy barn, who takes him away. Buzz and some others travel to save Woody. Along the way, he finds that in Al's apartment that he was created for a 50s Western kids TV show. He meets Jesse, Bullseye, and the Prospector, of whom Al has been collecting to sell to a museum. Fearing that Andy has grown tired of Woody, Woody agrees to go to the museum with the characters from the show. We meet a new special Buzz Lightyear along the way and hear Jessie's sad story of her owner Emily. The Prospector gets angry with Woody, but ends up with a new owner and artist. Everyone returns safely to Andy's home, including some new friends. The end.
There it is. The plot of Toy Story 2. I'm so interested to hear. What is your first impressions going back and watching this movie?
I don't know if I want to get into this right now, but my whole thing about this movie is the scene where Jesse's telling her story.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about it later, but it's so moving to me that every time I think about it, not just watch it, I get stirred up with emotion. Yeah. And that's what I think about at the core of this movie was that song and the story. It was just so moving.
There's so much that jumps out, but I was going to say that's one thing that just is a first impression that's memorable about this movie. I agree. And we'll talk about that. I want to definitely dissect that scene, so I totally get that. I'm just going to agree with you and move on, but oh yeah, there's so much that just jumps out. What I always come back to, it fascinates me about this movie is it was originally, I don't know if this is a fun fact I'm stealing from you, but it was originally going to be a straight to VHS DVD movie. And it just grew to where they were like, no, we need to make this a full length theatrical release. I'm so glad they did. I don't know if maybe they got more fun. I mean, it was 90 million like we talked about, but yeah, it's just amazing because sequels that's what they typically are. They're kind of just tossed to the side. They're kind of that money grab. We'll throw it to VHS, DVD, whatever, and hopefully we get some sales out of it.
Mm-hmm.
No, this made huge box office numbers. This was a huge hit, and for good reason. This is up there. We call this peak Pixar for a reason. We're spoiling it right now. It's like, I think this is just regarded as a beloved movie. I mean, we can, if we want to nitpick all the live long day, we could look at maybe there's some negatives, but
yeah,
there's so few and far between. I think there's just so many fun things. What else? What kind of comes to your mind? If it's the plot, if it's the characters, just what kind of what else sticks out to you?
I want to say the jokes, the writing for this film. I feel like to me it was a step up from the first one. The writing was so polished. It was so right there on the right time. And I loved it. Not to jump to the end of the movie, but the blooper reel where Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head are packing for the trip. I mean, she just goes on and on and on. The writing is perfect. I mean, really good. It's just so good. So good.
It is. I mean, this is, again, I love the first one. And you know what? I'm not going to compare, which one's better. It's so hard. But, I mean, they're just on the same level to me. They're right there. They both have such great writing. I'm with you. I agree. And it just feels like this one, they just were like, let's have fun. Let's just go for it and just enjoy it. It's a interesting plot. It's taking more of the approach of this adventure kind of. Woody
Mhm.
gets kidnapped, quote unquote, because he's in the yard sale and this collector finds him. Does break into the I always thought that was messed up. He actually breaks into the um little lockbox that Andy's mom puts him in. And then the toys have to go for a rescue and it just grows from there. But you're already accustomed to these characters. They don't need any more introduction. They're just kind of picking up where they left off, and it's great. It's wonderful. The voice acting again is great. The characters are just I don't know, they're just even though they are after Woody, did you get that sense they're just having a fun time despite the circumstances? Because that's how I was feeling anyway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, everything's just so complete in this film. I mean, like they didn't drop the ball, pun intended, um, at all. I just like you said, it's so hard. If you're gonna nitpick, you can nitpick, but it's so hard to find something negative to say about this movie. The characters are just so funny and well placed. And I mean, to introduce Barbie was hysterical.
Yes. That's just so great, and we kinda touched on it in Toy Story. This one also covers more toys. They kinda
Mhm.
brought it all in, and, the plot deals with a toy store, so obviously it's going to do that, but it does it so just smooth. It doesn't shove it down your throat, like, "Look at all these toys." They just kind of appear and they do it with at the right time. It's very charming, just like you said, there's Barbie, and "I'm tour guide Barbie." It's so great. It's so fitting to what's going on, and there's so many jokes along the way, like you said. Yeah, I feel like my head's gonna explode because so much jumps out to me at once. That's why I keep
Spanish
throwing
Buzz. Or is that the third one? I'm
That's the
I'm
3rd
losing it
one.
right now. I'm sorry.
That's what happens, your
It's been
head
a long
explodes.
day.
Well, that's what happens though, your head explodes because it's like, there's so much, with the toy store. There's the intro with Buzz Lightyear, and I'm entertained with that. That's almost like
Yeah.
a movie or TV show in itself right there,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
it's so fu and it's kinda funny actually, just seeing him get through, and at the end, he gets zapped, and then it turns out to be a video game. It's Rex trying to play. So, it's just great. I love the characters again. We talked about it more in depth, but I don't know what else they're just having more fun, it feels like this time.
Mhm.
Not that they weren't in the first one,
Well, I
but
think with when you play a character role and you play it again, you're more comfortable with it because you have more experience playing that role. You have more of a background to work from. And I think they all just felt comfortable doing this. It was a big difference than the first one.
right. That's probably what it is. It's just I could really sense that, like, the actors and all of them were having fun with this. It's just we're again, it's weird because Woody got captured. They're going after him, but they just seem more at ease. They just seem more and I think that is with the voice acting, but I love that. It's
Yeah.
very genuine, very natural, and not that the first one wasn't either. That's not what I'm saying. I think we already raved about the first one. I mean, this one, I just feel the same thing. Uh I think I really, really like the new characters. Specifically, you're talking about Jesse and Bullseye, the prospector, because again, the characters are so well done. There's so many of them. It's
Yeah.
Andy's toys, and they still introduced very iconic, very just you remember these characters. They're not just these side characters. Like,
Yeah.
we're kind of filling this in. I mean, Jesse is regarded as a huge character, a part of you could argue like Woody, Buzz, Jesse. It's kind of
Yeah.
the trio now.
Yeah.
Yeah, just what do you think of the characters? That's I can't get over that honestly.
I came across a fun fact that I did not remember if I did, heard it a while ago. That Bullseye was supposed to talk originally, and it was supposed to be Martin Short, which would have
Really?
been a whole different character. I would have loved it nonetheless, but it would have been a
Oh wow.
completely different character.
Oh man. That just blew my mind a little bit, just
Yeah,
trying
it's
to
a little
picture
bit
that.
overwhelming
It
to
is.
think about. Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm glad they didn't. I could see that working, but I think
Yeah.
Bullseye's perfect being just
Yeah.
like a horse, an actual horse.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
You have toys that are like animals and they talk, but some don't. I don't know. It makes it just very dynamic. It has a variety to it doing that.
Mhm.
And part of me is like, okay, if Martin Short was Bullseye, who would Steve Martin be? Because then they'd have to go get Steve Martin, wouldn't they? It's like they're always collaborating together, and they're great. I mean,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
collaborate together. I mean, would he have been the prospector maybe or something?
I don't know, but that's funny. I mean, it's really funny.
Yeah,
Speaking of the prospector, Kelsey Grammer, oh my goodness, he plays a
knocked it
just
out.
a amazing role in that movie. Um,
So great.
again with the bloopers, that's why they call me Stinky Pete.
Yeah.
I when I first saw that, I was like gut wrenchingly laughing. I mean, it was a guttural laugh that came out of me.
It's great.
It's just awesome.
I mean, we talked about the last movie, Bug's Life. They had Niles. Now you have
Yeah,
Frasier himself in
yeah,
this movie. It's
yeah.
just so wonderful how they got these voice actors and they just play the part so well. Yes, Kelsey Grammer, I don't know, he has that voice, just me personally. I think each
Oh,
person you
it's
can ask, but it's
yeah,
wonderful.
one of the best voices I've ever heard in my life, and that's saying something.
He has the ability to talk about something depressing
Mhm.
or something exciting, and you're captivated. You know, I can see him doing a documentary about, like, an oil spill, and I would be captivated. It's horrible, I'm not but it's
Yeah.
hor but I could see him doing that, or I could see him doing a documentary on, like, chickens and their chicks, and he's just talking, like, in a very playful mood. He just has that voice, and
Yeah.
I could hear him talk all day. I'm with you. He just has a fantastic so as a prospector, he's just great. He's this kinda side character, and I have to ask you when it comes with the plot, what did you think about him ending up being kind of the villain after all?
That's something I didn't see coming when I first saw it. I thought, this guy is a guy of wisdom, a guy of that he can, has a good character, who can lead. I didn't think that he would be the enemy here, and it's very selfish too,
Right.
which is very a unique character for a kids movie.
Yes.
Yeah, I was blown away by it. I mean, it's like very cinematic, very drama induced.
Yeah. That line, I wish I knew it word for word, but it's just it's Kelsey Grammer again. I'm just gonna give all this praise to him. I just really but when he turns and he locks the gate to
Mhm,
keep him out, by this point, he's kind of revealed himself because Woody's been back and forth the whole time. But
mhm,
Woody says something like, "You're out of your box," and he's like, "Yes, Woody, it was me about the TV," because he
mhm.
tried to get him caught, and so on and so forth. But that line where he's just like, "Why? Why are you doing this?" And he's just like, "Why? I'll tell you why. To be on a dime store shelf watching every other toy." And it's like the way that's delivered, the
Yeah,
way that the line is written is so great because like you said, it's selfish. It's totally selfish of you know what? I've been this forgotten toy. I was never purchased. I'm still in my box, but at least in this way, I'm going to a museum and I'm going to have kids that admire me in some way,
yeah.
even though I'm not still the main toy. But I just always love that line. It's again Kelsey Grammer and that really mad and very it's just great, great, well done.
Believable.
Yes,
It's just it makes you feel for him, and he's the bad guy.
right. And that's why it's so well written.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
talked about villains before and they have their purpose. When there's just a villain that's just kind of there because I'm going to do stuff that's not great, it loses its substance. But if you actually feel for the villain in a way, or you understand what they're doing, what their drive, their motivation is, it adds so much more to it.
Mhm.
So, like you said, that does stick out. It's selfish, but you understand. You totally get it. And it was a great twist. I'm with you. I didn't see it coming. I don't think a lot of people
Mm.
did, honestly. And it's a fun little twist. You see that a little more often anymore, but at the time I just remember being floored and I totally enjoyed it. Of course,
Yeah,
like I said.
yeah.
So, oh yeah, there's just so many great characters though. What do you think about we talked about the prospector, but what about Jesse and Bullseye or any other characters?
Love Bullseye. Jesse stole my heart. I introduced this topic at the beginning of the podcast because it's just so important to me. Jesse not only is like Joan Cusack amazing,
Right.
but the role, the character is, you just fall for the character and you like literally in pain watching that sequence. I have a fun fact about that.
Right.
Um,
I like your fun facts, so hit me.
so Tom Hanks and Tim Allen actually got together and watched that scene with Jesse's song "When Somebody Loved Me," and both were moved to tears.
Mm,
Now, what I didn't write down in the notes was, and I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say it now. Randy Newman actually didn't want the song in the movie,
interesting.
but he felt it didn't flow right, and that it was maybe too heavy, like too dark.
Okay.
But then when this moment when it happened, when Tim Allen and Tom Hanks saw it together, they both cried and said, "We need this song in this movie."
Wow.
And that's what made the movie for me. I
Yeah.
mean, like literally, like I would hang my hat on saying that's one of the best scenes in cinema history.
It's up there. It's so I wanna kinda touch on that. Like we said, I think we just were like so excited to get to it because that is such a remarkable scene. What
Yeah.
I appreciate is the build up to that scene. It
Yeah.
it had such a great build up. It wasn't just like, let's just rip your heart out for no reason and shock
Yeah.
you. No, it had going back to the voice acting, you said Joan Cusack, she did such a wonderful job of really bringing Jessie alive. She's this very fun-loving, just, hey, she's the one that's there with Woody when he first appears, and Woody's like, what's going on? But she's just so happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
And then it's like when he's thinking about going back and saying, "No, I can't leave Aunt," she just kinda turns,
Yeah.
does a 180 of now being kinda mean, but you understand
Mhm.
because of that payoff, because of that song. Because 'cause you're like, she's just kind of two-faced. She's, like, really happy, and then all the next, she's really like, "Yeah, Woody, yeah, you go back to your Andy," she's just mocking
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but then when that song hits, you're like, "Oh, it was such a great buildup.
Yeah.
That's what made that scene so great, I think. If you would've been introduced to that right away, like, "Hi, I'm Jesse. Here's my backstory." It just wouldn't have had the same
Yeah.
substance, the same
Yeah.
weight. So, again, we'll just say it, like we did with the first one. Hats off to the writers, hats off to the directing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I could hear there was a line somebody said that how much they enjoy Sarah McLachlan. I'm gonna steal that too. Along with Kelsey Grammer, I think Sarah McLachlan's another one. I mean, she could read me the phone book and I could just sit there and listen to it all day. She's just got an amazing voice. I mean, did that add to it as well for you that Sarah McLachlan was the one that sang it?
So yes, now that you bring this up, I was a Sarah McLachlan fan for a long time before this movie, and it's because of my siblings. And I remember, and this might have been a few years after, when Angel was out, and she did a performance on VH1 Unplugged or something, and
Yeah.
they would play that like on a daily basis. They would play it all the time, and I would listen to it, and I would just be like blown away. She so emotes her feelings like I never heard a female singer like that before.
No.
I mean, maybe Fiona Apple, maybe that comes off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing how she can convey what she's feeling within just one word.
Right.
And it just blows my mind. I not to harp on this subject, but I mean, I just love it so much. And it brings me to tears every time I watch it. And sometimes when I think about it.
Yeah. It's a power, again, we can't stress enough. It's a memorable scene. It really does. I mean, if it made Tom Hanks and Tim Allen cry, I mean, goodness, that should tell you right there just the thought of these are toys, but there's so much emotion because this was the favorite toy of this girl. And it does that whole just time sequence. I think time sequences, when done right,
Yeah.
they'll hit you emotionally every time. But this one definitely, it's that just it's a sad, yeah, it just hits you in the feels. It really does. I don't know what else to say. It's just,
And it's not us alone. It won Best Oscar for Best Song. I'm
good
like,
reason.
of course.
Right. I would be angry if it didn't. I'd be like, are you kidding me? How else can you make that any more just complete? It's a complete song, in my opinion.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Pixar started winning a lot of Oscars after that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. They were recognized.
That was kind of a turning point.
Yeah, absolutely. This is where it really, I think maybe people thought Toy Story was kind of that 5 minutes or 15 minutes of fame. Like, okay, good job. And then Bug's Life came and they were kind of like, okay, yeah. And then this hit and it was like, whoa, these guys are for real. Like, it's really hard to make 3, let alone we'll get to them. But I'm gonna safe to say there's gonna be more we consider heavy hitter Pixar movies
for sure.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think this winning that Oscar was putting everybody on notice. Like, they're here to stay. Yeah, they're gonna be here for a while. So pull up a seat, sit down, make yourself comfortable. We're gonna be enjoying some more of these movies. But it's that scene with Jesse. That's just super memorable. I want to bring out the it's kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but the whole concept of Rex trying to defeat Zurg because he played that game at the beginning, like we mentioned. So throughout, he's just obsessed with beating this game. Comes across like a player's guide when they go to the toy store trying to find Woody, and Zurg, the actual action figure, gets open. I I have that memory of that happening, and everybody in the theater going, "Oh!" Like it was. Here's Zurg. Here he is. You hear his name constantly as the arch nemesis of Buzz. Do you remember any reactions or anything when you first saw Zurg?
So when I saw, I think it's right when they get out of, is it the elevator scene?
That's when he confronts them. Yeah.
He says, I am your father. And Buzz's look on his face, the whole audience was floored.
Yes.
I mean, it was like laughter and then silence. It's like, whoa.
Yes. It was so fun. I mean, it's kind of, it's doing Star Wars, of course, and everything, but it's just, it's so fun. That whole sequence is just hilarious, in my opinion. And it was just a fun experience seeing that in the theater because it was laughter, like you said. Everybody erupted in laughter when that happened. But one of my favorite parts, this is one of my favorite just parts, is Buzz starts fighting him. The Buzz that thinks he's the actual Buzz, because there's 2 of them. And anyway, they're fighting and trying to get away. And Rex says, I think Buzz is in trouble. And it cuts over, and Zurg is just shoving him up against the wall. He's like, Buzz, 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 Buzz. I don't know why I laugh at that every time. It's just hilarious. That whole sequence with that one, especially.
I like the scene where the new Buzz, the special belt Buzz, where he says, I'm going to let go. And they're all like, no.
Yes. And then it's the elevator takes him up, and they're all dizzy because they had fallen. They're like, oh, and he's like, Don't worry. The anti-gravity effects will wear off momentarily. And then he goes, let's move out. And Mr. Potato Head's like, remind me to glue his helmet shut when we get back. It's so great. Yeah. It just picks up. There's so much I could go on about this, but I think it just does a great job of picking up from the first film. And just me personally, I mean, and I had expectations. I'm sure other people had high expectations. It blew my expectations away, honestly. I thought, okay, this should be a fun time, but I just can't get over how much fun this movie is. And just, again, like you said, it's so clever. Just, it's so great. It's so great. What else did you want to touch on and bring out?
I've got some fun facts and one quote. So mock-ups of the toy merchandise for Woody's Roundup were shown to Tom Hanks in the recording booth. And some of the reactions were genuine that was recorded and put into the movie.
That's cool.
The one that I think of is when he goes, "There's a snake in my booth." And like, I could see him saying that, you know what I mean? In real life. And it got recorded and they put it in the movie.
That's fantastic.
And when he says, "Oh, still a handsome guy," and whatever, all that stuff, I could see him saying those things because he's got a really good sense of humor.
Oh, he's fantastic.
So I could see him saying that stuff.
Yes, I can too.
When Ham is flipping through the channels looking for the Alice Toy Barn commercial, it shows the previous productions from Pixar, such as the Luxo Jr., Red's Dream, Tin Toy, and Knick Knack. So I thought that was kind of cool. I knew some of them were in there, but I didn't know all those were in there. So I'm glad I looked that up. That was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's flipped so fast. It's hard to catch.
Yes, it is.
We actually paused it. We had to pause it. We were watching it on Disney Plus and paused it. And I don't know which one of those that you mentioned it's from, but there's a snowman with a weld mask. And a weld.
I don't know either.
I don't know, but we look at it, we're like, what is this? Because it happened to be when he's cycling through the channel.
Yeah.
So that's great. Yeah, you could
funny.
Go slow motion on those and pick them out. That's what's just so fun about this movie and all Pixar movies, really. Yeah.
So we've talked about how they pay homage to other movies, and it said Andy's calendar on his room had a picture of the Bug's Life on it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I didn't catch that this time when I was watching it, but there's so many of that. There's so many, and then the blooper reel, like you mentioned. Yeah. I love that too, because it's.
Oh yeah.
I'm so happy to be in A Bug's Life too. Well, actually, it's not A Bug's Life 2. What movie is it? Cuts away, and it's when they're going through the brush. Oh yeah, you could just go on about the blooper reel alone, but yeah, that's great how they intersect the movies. I love when they do that.
Yes, it makes it kind of fun because you're kind of like looking for it now, and you're like wondering, is it going to be there?
Yeah, you have to.
One of my favorite quotes in the movie, and I especially laughed hard at it today, was when he says "Buzz Lightweight." When the prospector says "Buzz Lightweight,"
that was great too. He gets so many like knockoff names, but they're great. I like them all.
Yeah. And at the airport, you hear announced flight A113, which is pretty cool. And I'm really looking hard for every single movie just to see this because that's going to be cool.
Yeah.
And one last thing that I found that I did not remember, although I know I did see this in the past, is when Wheezy sings at the end of the movie, it's actually Robert Goulet. Did you know that?
I didn't.
That's funny. Oh my goodness. Oh, too funny.
Yeah.
But that's what I've got. Those are my fun facts.
There's so many. I'm sure you could have went on for more. Those are great ones, though.
Oh, there's a slew of them for this movie.
Oh yeah, and that's a running theme with Pixar. If you want to have some fun facts, you better bring your notepad because you're gonna miss a lot if you don't make a note of it. And you mentioned the A113, so there you go. They kept Andy's mom's license plate, so that was there also. But I do like that you brought that one out, not the license plate again, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to spot. That's the main one. There's also, like you said, any reference to other movies, and we're gonna come across a bunch of those as we go through these movies. But the other is the ball. That's just kind of that side. The Pizza Planet truck was obviously there. That was a big plot point with them chasing down to the airport. Love that sequence too. I mean, we could talk about that one too, but that's just a whole a whole bunch
Use
of great
the
quotes in
wand
there.
of power.
Oh, it's so great. It's just it's boom, 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 joke after joke, where you're just like you're trying to get your breath from one, and there's the next. My favorite. It's hard to pick one, but my favorite is when Ham's reading the instruction manual. Like, oh, I know he's not getting this gas mileage. I love it.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
And it's like we mentioned, Ham is he just feels like that forgotten character, but man, he has some great one-liners. He's just, I appreciate him so much. I don't know if he's like my absolute favorite, but he's one of my favorites just for that reason. He's just so great. But yeah, we mentioned the ball. I thought it was fun because you can actually blink and miss it when it comes to the ball. You talked about with the TV flipping through, you can find the ball in the commercial for Al's Toy Barn, I believe it is, but it's when it's flickering. The other is this right here. And the reason I want to put this up is it's so hard to miss, but when they're going into Al's Toy Barn, there it is. So there's actual proof of it that is where the ball is located. If you're trying to play that game of spot the ball with the star, it technically isn't on there, but you can recognize it from that angle. So there it is. That kind of touches. Was there anything else just to throw in there? Maybe a final thought?
I just love this movie. I mean, I hate to spoil, my personal review, but I just love this movie.
Yeah, enough said, right? It's like that. We could go on, just like the other movies we've covered.
For sure.
I think we hit on. There's so much we can touch on. I think we did a good job of hitting the main points there. So, with that, before we move into our reviews, not that that's going to be much of a surprise, I think, but let's see what the internet has to say. We typically like to look at other people's reviews, kind of get a sense. So, Seth, what kind of reviews are you seeing?
So I've got a few reviews today, some of which I cannot pronounce the names of, so bear with me. Doomed Mac. Better than the original 10 out of 10. And I agree with that statement.
Wow. All right. I don't know why that tickles me. Doomed Mac.
Doomed Mac.
For some reason, Mac and Me, that 80s movie came in. I don't like Macintosh computers is probably what people think of it. For some reason, I just had Doomed Mac.
I don't know about how to pronounce this, so I'm just going to say Pixar is improving, near perfect, 9 out of 10.
Okay. Again, I don't have anything to add. That's just, I kind of agree with it, though.
And then the last one I found that I really loved was, and I can't pronounce the name for this one either, A Great Sequel, 10 out of 10.
So I think it's kind of universally liked / loved. That's the sense I'm getting. But the only other thing I can throw in is like, how many memes have you seen from this movie? How many clips? And I think a lot of that is just people's childhood, people's nostalgia for this movie. And there's so much you could take from this movie. I mean, there's so many clips and memes and there's just so much. I'm not surprised whatsoever at those reviews, but thank you for putting those together, taking the looks, just giving us kind of a scope of what's out there. So let's get down to it then. I don't know if there's going to be much surprises, but I still have to ask you, Seth, for Toy Story 2, are you going to take it home? Are you going to leave it at grandma's? Are you going to hide it in the attic?
So I'm going to take this home and put it on the shelf and admire it. Because I'm going to be honest, this is one of my all-time favorite movies, not just kids movies, not just family movies, but in general.
Wow. There you go. I mean, yeah, no surprises. I'm taking this one home. This is, I think if you have any kind of liking to Disney, but especially Pixar, but just even Disney, this has to be in your collection.
Yeah.
It absolutely has to be in your collection. And like you said, put it up on your shelf. This is one of those movies I think you have to do. Me personally, it's like I got to put 1 and 2 together and just put them up on the shelf. It's just, what is there to say? Like, we've touched on so much. I don't know. There's just so many little things you could nitpick, but it's a masterpiece. That's how I would put it. It doesn't surprise me that it's one of your favorites. I could totally see that. Yeah, just if you've not seen this movie, what are you doing? Like we told you, go watch this movie. Go do it now. Do it now. I mean, this is up there for me too. It's one of my favorites, Pixar. So it'll be interesting when we do our rankings. You know, whenever that time will come. This movie definitely is going to shake things up a little bit on both our lists, I think. So I'll have to keep that in mind. Well, there you have it, folks. There's our ranking. But before we wrap things up, let's make sure we tell people where they can find us. So, Seth, where can people find us?
So, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You can email us at movies@grandmashouse@gmail.com. And we are now on Patreon with the main goal of getting the voice of Andy, John Morris, on the podcast. #Andy or Bust. We will soon have giveaways, so stay tuned. Currently, the top prize is the original trilogy of the Toy Story on Blu-ray, sealed. So make sure to check out Patreon and become a member. Thanks.
There it is, folks. Like Seth said, this can be yours right here. We just talked about it. We aren't just playing this up. Like, we really do feel like you got to have this in your collection.
Yeah.
Especially the first 2. We'll get the 3. We'll have our thoughts on it. But I mean, right here, you can get all 3 brand new sealed on Blu-ray. And like Seth, you could put it up and just admire it. Just be like, there it is. Right there on the shelf. So be sure, go to Patreon, sign up. It's like buying us a cup of coffee. You know, you can get on there. It's just, you know, a way to show you are a big fan. We want to grow this thing. We want this to be where we do have the voice of Andy on. That's just exciting to think about. And that could lead to more. Who knows? We could get other voice actors or actors from movies that we admire. We talked about, you know, Sandlot is one of our favorite movies. Just think if we got someone from The Sandlot, that type of stuff. So keep that in mind. You know, be sure to check us out. If anything, you know, just listening to this, we appreciate you so much. So just, you know, give us a follow on any of our social platforms. Give us a 5-star rating if you don't mind. That way more people find us. We appreciate you, though, regardless. But we want to make sure that you can get involved in any way possible. You know, be sure to message us, like Seth said as well. Share your memories. We'll give you a shout out. So all good things to keep in mind. We're just so excited. We're having such a great time. If you haven't noticed, this is a fun series of movies we're going through. And, you know, we're only just begun. So here's some more that are much, much more that are on the way. So stay tuned. Well, with that said, our time at Grandma's has unfortunately come to an end. But don't worry, we will be back soon. But in the meantime, remember to be kind and rewind. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
What are we gonna do, Buzz?
Use your head.
But I don't want to use